Welcome to the Farms in BC podcast. For today, we have Paul Rattan joining us from Opulence Custom Homes. He's a custom home builder, whether it be ALR land or out of ALR land. We're going to discuss all that and more. Stay tuned. Awesome, Paul. Well, I've been looking forward to this one for quite some time. We've been working together for a couple of years now on my own build. And from there, we've just been chatting, and you've been providing a lot of advice to kind of get my build off the ground. And here we are. We're almost near the finish line now. We're in the, what do you call it? The
drywall stage.
Right? So there you go. It's a little bit more comfortable now. I have a little bit more experience in this whole adventure, right? So I can actually speak to it a little bit, right? So that's why I wanted to wait till this phase to actually get this conversation going. But
now it's the exciting times where you can actually see things there every time you come.
Faster process. Everything's going to be actually coming in pretty quick now, right? So I'm excited, man. But for all those people that do not know who you are, tell us about yourself. Who is Paul Rattan?
Well, thanks for having me out here today, Jay. My name's Paul Rattan, and I'm the owner of Opulence Custom Homes. And yeah, like Jay mentioned, I'm doing his own custom build right now. And Nice.
Well, there you go. I mean, it's you've been in it for, I think it was 2015 you mentioned, right?
Yeah, 2015 I started Opulence Custom Homes, my own business. And before that, I was actually project managing for my father's company. He was actually a builder like since the early 90s, building farmhouses and estate homes and stuff like that. So I've kind of been involved in construction all my life pretty much, around the job sites, just doing site cleanup and random things from early age.
Starting from scratch, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, there you go. What was your father's name, actually? It's funny because I've met folks that have said, you know what, your dad was actually the one that built their house.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny how that works. Because I'll mention, I'm working with Opulence Custom Home, Paul Rattan. They're like, oh, Rattan. Is that, this guy's son?
It's Herb Rattan.
Herb, okay, that's it. There you go.
His company's Rattan Construction.
Okay.
And I used to work for that for a long time. I was doing stuff for him. So.
Man. I guess now the real question for those folks that are, getting into this world, why should they hire a builder? What's the value of hiring a builder?
Well, I think a lot of people don't realize that building a home is a lot more involved than just picking flooring and paint colors. So when you hire a builder, he's handling hundreds of decisions on like daily basis, pretty much. Trades, suppliers, and permitting, inspectors, handling everything day to day, sometimes even dealing with the financial end of it. Banks need paperwork and they need this and that. And like a lot of people don't realize there's a lot more involved, right?
From my own experience, I found it to be quite valuable as well, right? It's just one of those things where, I can only spend so much time towards building versus, doing my own business when I have my own business going on, right? So for example, I'm a real estate agent. I can only spend time towards doing activities that bring in income for myself.
Yeah.
Or I can take that time away and build my own house, which is going to be, a problem for me because I'm not making income at that time.
Exactly.
Right? So whereas putting yourself in there, someone that has the experience, it's kind of leveraging that, right? So you're going to do it better than me anyways.
Exactly.
Right?
Right.
And that same income I could be making elsewhere to pay for that, right? So
well, hiring a builder is as well. It's like I'm your main point of accountability. So no longer, if anything goes wrong, you're not having to track down 10 tradesmen and try to get an answer for this or that. Yeah. I'm the sole person of contact, right? You only need to call me and I take care of everything, right?
That's awesome, man. And it's been such a huge help because there's so many times when I'm just like, okay, well, I got this far-fetched idea. I want to do this. Mm-hmm. And you'll just tell me straight out the bat, like, this is not worth it. Like, you're going to spend XYZ on this. Yeah. I've done it XYZ times. Yes. And I'll be like, you know what? Okay, what's the alternative? And you'll tell me, this is the best bang for your buck.
Yeah.
And it turns out to be the best option anyways.
For sure.
Right?
Well, you don't want to spend too much. And if you're not getting as much return on the other end, you'd rather save that money and put it somewhere else. Like, I recommend in like a sauna or a home gym. Yeah. That's where you want to spend that money.
There you go. And we're seeing it as well, like, on the real estate side of things, when we're selling these homes later down the road, sometimes we think this one aspect is going to add so much value, but in reality, it doesn't, right?
It could mean something for somebody, but for a future sale, right?
If you wanted to be universal for everyone, like even in later down the road, 10 years down the road, you sell the property, you wanted to have some asset value, right?
100%.
Yeah, so I mean that's nice to be able to bounce those ideas off, and from your experience, be able to like knock it back to scale where it makes sense.
Yeah,
Right.
well, hiring a good builder is like the builder is basically the quarterback of the whole thing. So you got to manage everything, the schedule, the timing, everything's got to be done. So there's no like delays and there's no days where nothing's going on, right?
Yeah,
There's always something going on. If you're scheduled and organized, there's something going on every day, right?
yeah, for sure, man. Now I guess the next thing is you built your own custom home recently.
Yeah.
How long have you been working on that one?
Well, we were looking to build for quite some time, and we just the timing and the properties we couldn't ever align. We couldn't find the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
So finally, we found a property a couple of years ago, and we just actually moved like over a year ago now.
Mm-hmm.
And that was probably about a 2-year build, which is honestly quite standard now for doing these custom homes. Anywhere from 18 months to 2 years is like a pretty good time frame. There's so many details involved, and that's obviously just construction time, not including like permitting and planning phases as well, right?
Yeah, that's the thing with size, right? Like obviously if you're doing a smaller home, it's less time period involved,
Yeah.
right? But there's scale to it. And that was an acreage as well?
That was an acreage lot,
Nice.
but not ALR land, so there's
Gotcha.
no restrictions on sizes or any of that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, for sure. And there's a huge conversation to be had about that as well, because obviously, farmland, it's all going to be ALR for
Yeah.
the most part. There's going to be a few, here and there properties which are, 1 acre, 2 acres. But,
For sure.
we'll discuss that as well. But, about your house, that was something that you've been working on for quite some time, right?
So my build, it was pretty much, it was a timely build, but 2 years I'd say, but it went fairly smooth. Like it was just me making decisions only. Like a lot of the homes I build, there's a designer involved who has one opinion and they want to do things their way. And then there's obviously like the husband and wife who sometimes see differently on certain things too. So there's always a little bit of back and forth about what's going to happen here, what's going on that wall. And in my case, it was just pretty much me handling all the decisions. So it was a little bit easier and clearer to just go, right?
I can kind of relate to that as well. Even though I'm building on ALR, I'm trying to pack everything. It's a multifamily home as well, just like yours, right?
Yeah.
And I'm trying to pack all that into the restrictions of 5,400 square feet, right? Plus a 400 square foot garage and all that.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking, man, this is tough.
Yeah.
This is tough. It's not easy.
You have to get really creative with that
When you got
footprint.
7, 8 family members, right?
Yeah.
It's like everybody's got to have space to themselves, but also
Exactly.
have common areas where, everybody can kind of flow.
And you have to abide to those rules, which makes it really tricky.
What do you see are the biggest mistakes that homeowners are making when they're trying to build their own homes?
I would say one of the biggest mistakes that I see homeowners making is hiring solely based off price.
Mm-hmm.
When they want something really badly, but they don't want to pay that price for it, and then you hire the cheaper guy, then you don't get what you were expecting at the end of the day either, right? So that's one thing that I've seen. And another thing that I've seen is like hiring outside of the builder's trade pool.
Mm.
So basically, like, you know how everybody has a family member or a friend who does whatever, siding or some kind of job. So they want to hire their own relative or something to bring them on to do that scope of work. And I've seen that just kind of crumble job sites because that's like somebody new involved, not in my trade pool, and they don't mesh with the team, but like they're not aware of the schedule that I'm trying to keep, and then they don't prioritize my schedule, right?
Mm-hmm.
So usually when I'm dealing with my own trades who I deal with, I can call them and they're answering the phone and they know the schedule. If they're a day late or something, that's okay. We'll make up for it, right? When you're dealing with somebody who doesn't know me, first of all, they're not answering my phone calls. They're not prioritizing my time, and you know what I mean? They're just showing up as they please. So sometimes when that happens and they hire somebody who's like a few $1,000s cheaper, they can drag on the job and be delaying it for like weeks to months at a time. And in the end, you're kind of not really saving anything. It's just more of a headache and a hassle than anything, right?
Yeah, and I mean, when there's, I don't know how many trades that you go through in a whole build.
In a
I
build,
imagine it's
yeah.
probably 20, 30 trades.
More
Or
than
more,
that,
right?
yeah. And the more detailed these homes get, there's just more people involved, right?
Yeah.
Like there's like a guy for a specific antique mirrors and like different places, different things. You can't just get it all from one spot, right?
Yeah, and I mean, that's how many times this can go wrong.
Yeah, exactly,
right?
exactly. So I'd recommend if you're going to hire a builder, like you're hiring a builder for their skill set and their tradespeople as well, right? Because if you start hiring your own people outside of the builders network, then it's just creating more headache and stress for yourself as well.
Yeah, and I've seen it where, I've had a couple suggestions thrown your way, a builder or sorry, not a builder, but another tradesman or whatever the case is for various jobs. And you know what? You'll get a quote from your guys, and I'll get a quote from my guys.
Yeah.
It might be even less or more, but like
Yeah.
I'll just go with yours because I know that efficiency that you guys have is going to make up that difference, right?
Well,
a lot of the times, actually, your guys have beat my guys, so I'm just
Yeah.
like, I'm going to go with that regardless.
Well, when you're building, and when I'm building a home specifically, like I feel like we're like a well-oiled machine, and we're running, we're moving, everything's just going like clockwork. We know what's coming next, everybody's prepared, and we just keep moving. And then when you throw in a new person in there, it kind of just a big hiccup to the whole thing, and like it easily throws everything off, right?
Yeah, and another thing I think would be a big value to not do actually is micromanaging. So from our side, we're trying to we got you in place to manage the whole thing. We don't want to micromanage you on everything as well, right? So I try to get there like once or twice a week and leave you at it. And then I'm just like coming in every week or two, and I'm just like a week and a half or so.
Yeah.
And I'm like, holy man, so many changes, so many this and that,
Lots gets done, right?
Lots gets done in between, and I'm just like, dang it, things are moving forward and moving
scheduling things is key, right? You have to have everything scheduled. You can't wait till this guy's finished to call the next guy, because then they're going to say, oh, I'm busy for 2 weeks, and then what? You're just waiting and nothing's happening, right?
Yeah.
So when one trade's starting, I already have the next 2 or 3 lined up, ready to come in. And then if there's anything, like I mentioned, there might be like a day or so in between where somebody's not able to show up, but never for like weeks at a time, right?
Yeah, huge.
So I see that with homeowners trying to do their own thing. Tradesmen don't prioritize them. They just show up like when they feel like showing up, because they're obviously working for their own people somewhere else.
Yeah.
So they're obviously prioritizing those people. So yeah, when you hire outside a builder's network, then you're kind of dealing with that, right?
And I think that almost ties into another benefit of having a builder itself, is that, you know what, when you're building your own house and you get these tradesmen, a lot of the times they're prioritizing their builders that they're working with, right, with their different networks. They're going to come to you almost last.
Exactly.
Because you're just one deal.
You're just like a one-off,
multiple
right?
deals,
Exactly.
right? So for them, it's higher priority to get their builders' jobs done first. So that's another reason why, it does take a longer time period for an individual person to build their own home.
For sure it does. And then longer time periods of time is money. Exactly, right? Like you're paying a mortgage on that. You have COC, construction insurance. There's just, the bills don't stop, right?
Yeah. So now you're actually working on my parcel, which is in the ALR.
Yeah.
And we're building a home on there. And you've worked on outside of ALR as well.
Yeah.
And so how has that been different for you? Like, I know it's, you've done both, right?
Yeah.
But there is a difference between building on one or the other.
Definitely.
What are the differences?
Well, building an estate luxury home on acreage is always a challenge, but when you're in the ALC, it's like a whole nother animal right there. Well, you're not only dealing with city regulations, and then on top of that, there's all the ALC conditions that they have. And when you're building in a farm, like, there's lots of other variables like soil conditions, water table levels. And on top of that, when you're building on these acreages, you're not just building a home, you're developing the whole infrastructure there. So a builder needs to coordinate everything that's going on there, whether it's like a long driveways coming in, culverts you got to deal with. Then there's wells, not in your case, but you got to do wells for properties, septic systems, drainage situations, right? And you got to build up the property, retaining all of that. Like there's a lot more involved than just buying a lot and a subdivision and just, connecting to the city sewer and the city storm, and you're on your way, right? Yeah. And like at your place, like we had to bring power. You bring your own pole in, bring a 400 amp service there, take it from there underground. Same with the remote gas meter. Like it's a lot more steps along the way compared to just building a city lot, right?
Yeah, and I can kind of relate it to, like, it's almost like a sandbox where basically anything you want can happen, but you can make mistakes with decisions too.
Yeah.
Like, for example, the power line that we brought it to the wrong location the first time.
Yeah.
Then we're like, you know what, we could probably have it on the pad,
Yeah,
the lifted
it should
land
be
that we should
higher,
be building
yeah.
it up on. We should probably have the electricity on top of that,
Yeah,
right? So
for sure.
you got to move things along as they come, right?
Yeah,
But
exactly.
that doesn't mean you have to slow it down. You got to keep on pushing because you still need the electricity to do everything else.
Yeah.
So we just kept on pushing forward, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it's a lot.
That's where experience comes into play, though, right? Because like making a mistake on something like that, like the pole is moving is like a quick thing. It's like a day kind of job, right? Not even, it's a couple hours. But you can make costly mistakes, that could be permanent, right?
Yeah.
So you got to be careful of what's going on there and be aware of what to do ahead of time, right?
Yeah, and I mean, raising land is one of those things where you're only going to have to do it in floodplains, but it is one of those things you're going to have to do. And having experience in that part of it, it's one of those ones that can take a whole year because it has settling times and potentially even longer than a year depending on where you are, depending on the soil conditions and everything, right? So,
well, you have to do it in lifts, like as you know, and then you have engineers come out and test it every time you go, and then it's all got to be packed. Like you know the process very well now.
Yeah,
it's quite the process, right?
Yeah, and it's funny because even though you're handling everything, I'm kind of trying to keep an eye to it and ears to it and just understand the whole process. And I'm just like, man, this was a lot.
Well, like a lot of time goes into it and money goes into it, right? So you want to know like what's going on here, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of money goes into that.
I think we did fairly good though. I mean, just having the knowledge and having all the right trades and all the right people involved and giving the right advice, and
for sure,
obviously for yourself to be kind of stick handling everything. I'm so happy where we got to how far we have gotten so far. We're not at the finish line just yet, but
but the hardest part's pretty much over there, right? So
I think that first phase was probably the most anxiety, I could say, right?
Yeah.
In the beginning, because you don't know what the pad's even going to look like, right? You're working with your engineers, but lifting the land up, that part alone can be very costly.
Yeah.
Or it can be break even.
Yeah.
Right? So there's a lot of ways of doing it, but it all depends on various things that you're going to have to get your engineer involved in.
For sure.
Soil and all that, right? So that's one of the first steps. I think we got to bring you in a long time before that, though.
Well, that's why you need the right team in place in the beginning, right? You want to have a builder who's experienced with ALR land or just in general raising properties, farm properties, etc. You want to have the right structural guys. You want to have the right geotech, right architect. Everybody has to be kind of involved right in the beginning, right? Lots of times people buy these properties early up front without knowing what you're actually able to even do on them. And they just think like, oh, my neighbor over there has this and that. They have a 10,000 square foot house and a detached coach house. And they think because they have it that they're going to be allowed to have that too.
Yeah.
Well, that's not always the case.
No.
Especially in today's day and age, right?
Yeah, man, there's a lot of variables. And when it comes to ALR and when it comes to acreages in general, obviously the realtor is going to kind of advise them before they purchase that. And if they haven't, that's the wrong that's the wrong advice.
Yeah, you need a better realtor. Then you need a farm realtor.
Man, that's we made a whole career out of it, right? So there's a lot of knowledge that's just not being shared, right?
Yeah.
So one of those things is really educating your clients to get
for
into this,
sure.
And then we hand them off to yourself for someone that's looking to build, and they then can actually get the right advice to actually build it up, right? So,
exactly.
Do you have any tips or advice for folks that are looking to build on ALR?
Yeah, I would say just do your homework early on. Like I mentioned, make sure you have the right team of professionals involved right in the beginning. Confirm your services, like what's on site. Is there water? Do you need a well? Obviously, more than likely, you're going to have septic there anyways. What kind of power is down the road? Are you bringing in your own pole? Is there power on the property already? Lots of variables, right? So you just got to do your homework up front. Home plate location, where can you actually place this? Where are you able to build, right? Lots of variables.
And I mean, there's city differences as well, municipal differences. For example, where you can place your home plate.
Yeah.
For example, in Langley, it's a little bit more open. In certain places, I know in Abbotsford, they want to minimize as much possible that wasted land, so they want it closer to the road.
Exactly. They don't want you to be too far off the main road.
And I think one of the services that's going to help the most is the designer. So if you're sitting down with your designer on, I'm not talking about interior design, I'm talking about like the actual architect that's going to create your design plan.
Yeah.
They're going to really get into all those nitty gritty details with city as well, with the city's advice, right? So I spent, I think, about a year.
Yeah.
A bit over a year.
Well, there's a lot of back and forth, right?
Yeah.
You have something, you kind of have a preliminary drawing, and then sometimes you ask the city what's going to happen with this, and they don't want that. You got to relocate it. A lot of back and forth. So you got to be prepared when you're building in the farm areas. Like, it's going to be a little bit of extra time going back and forth, and you don't want to rush that, because once it's set. You're not going to be moving it after that.
And I know from experience, we're trying to make a little tiny adjustments even now on the home itself. And I'm just like, man, if I had planned this better, even though I spent a year, I could have planned it even better than that, right?
Yeah,
So
for sure.
There were some little hiccups I could have adjusted at that time.
There's always little things that'll come up, right?
They will
things
come
that
up,
you don't see on the plan until you start kind of building it out, and then you notice it, right?
And in fact, that goes hand in hand with another service that I think was really helpful, which was Plan Your Space.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Because we were actually able to walk through the space that we designed through our architect.
Yeah.
And I realized, you know what, my hallway is super tiny.
Yeah.
And I was like shoulder to shoulder with it
there,
based on the plan that we were seeing at Plan Your Space. And I was like, man, this is too tiny.
Yeah.
And we had to widen that up. And then that restricted me because like my whole square footage is capped.
Yeah, exactly.
So it was like, okay, well, I guess I gotta sacrifice a closet here or something else there, right? So
well, it's really tricky dealing with the ALR, right? Because you have to just kind of be right up front. You got to be really creative to be able to achieve everything in that blueprint, right? In that footprint.
And that takes time. So once you've spent your time, really perfecting that design.
Yeah.
And reality is time is money too, right? Because obviously you're holding the parcel, that's interest,
carrying costs.
There's a lot of tricks to get around that. Obviously, maybe if you already have a home on the property, that's maybe a smaller home that you're renting it out. You're making something off it. Maybe the land is a bigger parcel. You're making some income off the property. There's a lot of ways around it, right? But I think there's ways around it. You just got to have a little bit of a time period.
You got to have patience. Well, I think by the time we met to the time we actually broke ground was probably like 2 years later.
Almost, yeah.
And now it's not even been a year, and we're like already like way past lockup, drywall,
Things move fast after everything.
Once you get that permit in hand.
And permitted, yeah. Huge.
It's funny how that works. It takes that long for a green card from the city, and then once you start, like, you get so much progress in less than half that time, right?
Yeah, 100%. I've had folks that obviously take longer because they don't have that builder, right? But then it's like a 3.5 year or longer time period, right? So
you need a lot of patience at that point.
A lot of patience and a lot of interest.
And a lot of, holding costs, that's it. Especially in today's rates and market, right? It's not fun.
Yeah. So I guess, that we really alluded to it, but what is the best stage to bring you in? When do you think is the best time for you to kind of step in and start advising your clients?
So I'd say it's best to bring me in early on in the planning stages. So if you don't already own the land, usually when people are looking for a property is a good time to bring me in to the equation, right?
Yeah.
So if you're looking for a farm, like using a good farm realtor like yourself, you got to get a builder involved early on, and then you can kind of decide what's going to be achievable here and not.
Yeah. And space and just timing everything. And do you find you're doing it a lot more on acreages now, or are you finding it like smaller parcels as well?
Most of the homes I build are like these estate homes kind of, so I haven't really done any smaller homes, to be honest with you. They're all like 6,000 or like 54 and up, right? Yeah.
So no, absolutely. And I guess that's kind of a lot of what our audience is looking for. They just don't know how to go about it. For example, and I can speak from my own experience, we'll be living in town, right? So we had a construction loan on our side. We were wanting to sell this house as soon as our house is built. This is something a lot of folks are in the situation of, where they have a farm piece, but they never built on it. They live in town. They've always wanted to build on the farm or live on the farm because that lifestyle is different, right? And you're on the acreage now too, so you kind of feel it too, right? So I think that missing piece is having the builder's advice. So once you kind of step into that equation, you can kind of advise them that this is all possible. Right? Everything that you're wanting to do is possible. It just takes time.
It takes time. And depending on the family logistics, what they're looking for, right? Mostly everything's achievable. Obviously, size is kind of a limit in the ALR, but a lot of the homes I build are not in ALR, so there's no restrictions. I have like a house coming up later this year. It's like well over 13,000 square feet, and it's not in the ALR, so it's it's all achievable right there.
Yeah,
right?
it's a residential lot. I mean, it has its own hiccups, right? Because
Yeah.
you're going to have different building codes now, but
Exactly.
but it's size-wise, it's not limited though.
No, exactly. But the issue is, like you mentioned, like it's instead of a Part 9 build, now it's part of Part 3 building code. So there's a lot of different professionals need to be involved. And again, there's time, not ALR issue, but it's like another thing. It just takes time, right?
Yeah. Having that builder there kind of
Yeah.
shortcuts a little bit of it, but not all of it, right?
No,
So it's still worth it. Though.
yeah. It's definitely worth it.
So I mean, if the audience looking to reach out to you when they're with their next plans, what's the best way to reach out to you, and what's the best way to connect?
I'd say the best way to connect with me would be through my Instagram at Opulence Custom Homes. And yeah, all my info's there, but that's my main point of contact usually.
Awesome, Paul. Well, I appreciate you coming out. I think this is going to be a huge value add for a lot of the folks that are just humming and hawing about doing the build. This is going to really step them over to the next step, which is going to be obviously getting them to where they want to be. And it's a pleasure having you on, man.
No, thanks for having me out, Jay. It's been a pleasure, yeah.